Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Nigel St. James, and we're now going to discuss why square aspects and opposition aspects in astrology are considered to be bad. Now, most people, of course, probably naturally just assume that they are bad aspects because they've been told that they are. And of course, they move around the zodiac quickly. And so not only, and the reason why people assume it is because they actually don't understand the underpinning as to why they are good or bad. But let me just say this, is that they are bad aspects. There are good aspects, of course, which are the Trine and the Sextile. And if you'd like to see how they came about, there's a link in the description. If you want to see how astrology works and why it works, there is a link in the description. And as I say, the planets and constellations move around quickly, some more than others. And certainly, as far as the eastern horizon is concerned, a constellation will move through it in roughly 2 hours, which is why I personally consider that your best personal sign is your rising sign. And the reason why that is the case is that there is a link in the description. Now, why do I have the zodiac split into two? I'll also say this, there's a number of symbols for the planets and for the signs. There's a spiritual meaning behind all of those. And of course, if you'd like to know that, check out the link in the description, Astrology for Beginners, which goes through all of the spiritual meanings of the symbols for the planets and the signs. Now, it used to be the case, and well, certainly, it probably still is the case because I don't see any reason why it would have changed. But by medieval times, the majority of the scholars thought that, and probably earlier, even in Greek times, people thought that the zodiac was divided into two halves. The first half was ruled by the sun, and it aspects forward, and the second half of the zodiac was ruled by the moon, and it aspects backwards. Moon is Cancer, Sun is Leo. Now, let's look to see why there might be a bad aspect somewhere. The Sun, the Moon, Mars, and Saturn are important for working out the more difficult aspects. So let's go through the exercise now, shall we? And you'll find it eye-opening. If the Sun looks down this way, it finds itself going into Mercury. If the Moon moves this way, it finds itself going into Mercury. Now, Mercury has nothing to do with either beneficial or difficult aspects. It's the only planet of the classical planets that stays neutral on the effect. It then moves further down. It encounters Venus. The Sun encounters Venus down here in Libra, and then it encounters Mars in Scorpio, and it gets a bad feeling from Mars. Mars is the lesser malefic, which means to say it can cause trouble, but it doesn't bring about, or it's not capable by itself of bringing about total destruction, rather than try to play it. If we go this direction, here is the moon going through past Mercury, past Venus. Oh, and here when it gets into Aries, it finds Mars again, and it gets a bad feeling about it. So let's draw that aspect in, shall we? And so we'll go from the Sun to Scorpio, and we'll go from the Moon to Aries. Now in that case, you'll see here an interesting pattern has emerged. It is the distance from the Sun to Scorpio and Mars is the same distance as the Moon from Cancer into Aries. The degree of the angle is the same, and in this case it's 90 degrees. Now, is there anything that's more malevolent, to put it that way, than this? Is known as the square, incidentally, and you'll see that will be set out quite easily from this sign here. Usually I'll also draw in an opposition for you so you can see what that looks like, although you'll be familiar with it, I'm quite sure. But you'll see in astrology charts that there'll be a square sign showing up for this 90-degree angle that's appearing. Then we have the opposition where you have literally things poles apart. And how might we see that? Well, we come down here, the moon comes down here, it goes past the Benefic in Pisces, and then it finds in Aquarius Saturn. Is there a great problem that it has there? No. If I look at this side, the sun comes down and ultimately down the bottom, because the sun goes from Leo down to Capricorn. Is there a big problem with Saturn in Capricorn? There's not. But let me borrow this and move it to there, and let me borrow this and move it to there, and you'll find out what happens. Okay, well, I've just drawn those in now, and so now I've added from this sun chart into the moon chart the sun in Leo, and I've added here Saturn in Capricorn, and look to see what happens. First of all, and it's easy to see it, what happens with the moon when it comes down here, looks backwards, and sees Capricorn diametrically opposed to it, like that. It looks like that, doesn't it? That's how it looks. That is in opposition. If the sun now were to go this direction, but let's assume it's continuing aspecting forward, it comes past here, it doesn't see anything to do with Capricorn or Saturn, but when it gets to Saturn in Aquarius, it's a 180-degree opposition. And those oppositions can be expressed by drawing in, and I usually express by drawing in these lines. It's good to do stuff freehand like this, isn't it? Pretty easy to see why I never considered art school. And what you will find is now you see that Saturn in Capricorn is in opposition to the moon in Cancer, and the sun in Leo is in opposition to Saturn in Aquarius. And that's why the opposition comes about. Now, people say that the square is a bad angle, but remember, it's aspecting with Mars, and Mars is the lesser malefic, whereas the opposition came about by aspecting with Saturn, which is the greater malefic. So you really do have to draw the conclusion, whether you like to or not, that the opposition aspect has got to be worse than the square aspect. Anyway, I thought you might find that as interesting as I did. I'll see you next time.